Hello and welcome to the Hyperion Driver-Based Planning tutorial. On this lesson, we will explain what planning cost centers are and why they are important for our planning application. A planning cost center represents one or more regular cost centers with the same four characteristics. These characteristics are defined by category codes, also known as CAT codes. The four characteristics used in a planning cost center are: first, General Manager or CAT 10, second, Internal Customer or CAT 22, third, Service Offering or CAT 20, and fourth, Expense Type or CAT 5. We will go over what these four category codes mean and why they were chosen as the building blocks of a planning cost center in more detail. Planning cost centers were created to support the vision of simpler planning at the CAT 10 or General Manager level. At the time of this recording, Conduent has over 10,000 active cost centers, and we are using the planning cost center concept to whittle that number down to a manageable size with a design that can easily adapt to growth and change. It was decided that all planning cost center codes start with 9997. Conduent cost centers are 8 digits, and the first 4 digits indicate the general ledger company number the cost center belongs to. By having the same company number of 9997, the planning cost centers are easy to identify and manage. These cost centers that begin with 4 nines and a 7 are used exclusively for planning. When you use the Hyperion planning application, the first thing you need to do when you open a form is select the planning cost center you want to work with. Remember, every regular cost center with the same 4 CAT codes will have one and only one planning cost center. This means anywhere from 1 to 1,000 regular cost centers will share a single planning cost center. This means that actuals and headcounts for the 1 to 1,000 regular cost centers will be consolidated and mapped to a single planning cost center for planning purposes. No matter if you are planning revenue, expenses, or headcount, you must first select a planning cost center when using the Hyperion planning application. So it is critical you understand the concept behind how they are designed, as well as how to identify what each planning cost center represents. The easiest part of a planning cost center to understand is the first part, or CAT 10. CAT 10s are fairly large organizational units at Conduent. Security in the Hyperion planning application is based on CAT 10, so most users will only see the planning cost centers for the CAT 10 they work for. Examples of CAT 10 organizations are transportation, communications and media, and corporate human resources. The second component of a planning cost center is the CAT 22, also known as the customer dimension or customer vertical. CAT 22 has its own hierarchy, with the bottom level being an actual customer name. Level 3 of CAT 22 is used for the Conduent organization that best aligns with the customer based on the customer's primary business or industry. This is the level used as part of the planning cost center. So far we have covered 2 of the 4 components of a planning cost center. Think of the first component, the CAT 10, as the organization doing the work, and the second component, the CAT 22, as the organization or industry group which the customer's primary business best aligns with. Quite often the CAT 22 Level 3 is the same as the CAT 10, but it is important to realize the CAT 10 is part of an organization hierarchy and the CAT 22 is part of a customer hierarchy. As Conduent makes progress on the strategy of selling more services to existing customers, you will see more cost centers with different CAT 10 and CAT 22 Level 3 values. Here you can see an example where the Multi-Channel Communication Services CAT 10 has 6 different CAT 22s. Contrast that with another CAT 10 organization, State and Local Government, which only has one CAT 22 Level 3 of the same name. That means right now, state and local government is only providing services for state and local government clients. Speaking of services, the third dimension is the service offering, or CAT 20. CAT 20 also has its own hierarchy. We use level 3 in planning. A company the size of Conduent has thousands of specific service offerings. Level 3 is intended to represent relatively broad categories of service offerings. Examples of service offerings at this level are tolling, child support, or customer care. The service offering dimension is very important, as it is where you start to see a logical alignment of transactional volumes or drivers. It should make some intuitive sense that the number of toll transactions for an E-ZPass client would belong in a planning cost center with a service offering of tolling. By the same token, the number of phone calls or the number of minutes logged would belong to a cost center with a service offering of customer care. The last of the 4 CAT codes is the Sales, General, and Administrative type, often abbreviated as SG&A type. The type is applied to revenue or expense and is determined by the CAT 5 code of a cost center. The type of revenue or expense is important as it is used for external reporting. It is very rare to change an SG&A type. Conduent has many SG&A types associated with regular cost centers. To keep the number of planning cost centers manageable, SG&A types are grouped into 4 categories for planning purposes only. The 4 categories of SG&A type are direct services and revenue, selling, research and development, and other general and administrative. The important point is this SG&A grouping is only for planning. Actuals can still be categorized by any of the additional SG&A types. For example, one of the 4 groupings in planning is called Direct Services Revenue and Cost. This grouping is actually made up of product sales and cost, services revenue and cost, cost of sales, managed services, and some others. When planning customer revenue, look for Services Revenue and Cost in the CAT 5 section of the Planning Cost Center name. Planning cost centers with other CAT 5 types will be used primarily for planning expenses. To sum things up, we will do a quick review of the components of a planning cost center and look at a couple different CAT 10 organizations. The data shown here is updated monthly to reflect the current organizational structures. Part 1 is Select Your Organization, or CAT 10. On this example, we filter column E for the Comms and Media CAT 10. Part 2, in column G, you have your Customer Vertical Dimension, or CAT 22. And you can pick the internal customer you want to work with. In this example, we see Comms and Media has 2 internal customers, itself and Commercial Sector Admin. Part 3 is the Service Offering, or CAT 20 in column I. In this case, you can see that in Communications and Media, the current service offerings are Automations, ITS, Customer Care, Transaction Processing, and Administration. Let's choose Transaction Processing for this example. This will show the planning cost centers for this specific service offering. When we look at another CAT 10, Multi-Channel Comm Services, you will see different internal customers in column G. If you select HTIR, it will show you the planning cost center for this customer in a service offering of print and mail in column I. Looking at the Learning Services CAT 10, you will see different service offerings. For example, Provider and Pharma Services and Learning. Using these 4 category code fields as the basis for our planning cost center design, we expect to be able to easily align driver volumes to service offerings and the organizations that currently provide those service offerings to our customers. Organizational changes are handled by a change in any one of the 4 category codes. Thank you for your time and attention. Goodbye.